Okay, welcome again. I'm going to do a little demo in the middle of here, just going back. It's clustering is easy, and making your own little cool clusters is pretty cool. And you can have control over them. I have it set on turntable. You can see how I can play with the different shapes using a little cluster tool that I've done, pulling in any geometry I want. I basically started with 3 curves. I'll take off the turntable tool because that's just distracting. Start with 4 curves, sorry, and a radius to those into a pipe, so I can kind of change what they are. Just grab any geometry you want, and then I have a rotation that goes from 2. I set my rotation between 0 and 2 pi, and that allows me to manipulate those on the z-axis. This cluster is so simple. I use it all the time. I grab multiple geometries and I rotate them in a range into new geometries. So you grab geometries and you rotate them into new ones. Can you guys leave and try and be quiet a little bit? Thank you. And that's basically the node. Now, if I wanted to change that, a cluster, you can double click and go into it. You can see I could change it and edit it on the inside and have available to me, let's say in vectors, let's say I just wanted a quick reference to the y, and I could edit this and leave this in here. So I could always go in and swap out that geometry for the y, and that would just edit it and would change what it does, and it rotates it in another total direction. But I'll show you how to make a cluster. And instead of doing this, I'm going to leave a z because all I do is use the z all the time. I'll show you how to make a y1, and we'll leave that, and I'll show you how to make it an x1. Well, you can figure that out afterwards. This is something I do so often, so I just get tired of doing it. So I have my own nodes. We'll leave and save, and you'll see it pops up on my transform menu. Right here is a blue anchor, Wickerson Studio Transformations. And I'll start filling that up. So let's show you how that's made. We'll take this and we'll deactivate this one, disable, and we'll make another one for the Y. And we'll give it another icon. So let's get through that. It's 2 minutes in. Clustering is easy. Basically, I have a geometry, and I want to be able to rotate it. But let's basically start with the geometry, and I do this all the time. I grab a, I go into sets, and I go to sequence, and I grab a range, and I pop it in. I go to maths. I grab a create domain, and I pop it in. I constantly go into maths, and I'm always making this terrible, annoying function every time I go into the expression node. X minus 1, I'm getting tired of doing that. And then I have to go in and I got to delete Y, and I have to right click and edit the variable name down to X and leave that. And now I have also to have to go into list. I have to get a list length, and I have to plug that into range. Then I have to go in and I have to grab in maths over on utilities pi because I want to work in radians. And then what do I have to grab? List length. I think that might be it. I'm probably going to mess this up. I always am grabbing, I'm going to grab multiple geometries, not just into that. I'm going to be doing a transformation rotation 3D always. So I have to grab that geometry and bring it way over here. I'm just going to pull that out of the way. And I'm always building an angle, which has to go in here through pi, radians, domain, and I'm always plugging in a 0 to 1 radii. Let me take that and just ungroup so it's making sense. So I grab a geometry. I've made multiple geometries from curves. That can change. That'll be parametric. The slider will change. That will be parametric. Oh, we got a bunch of stuff on there that hasn't closed out from past files. Sorry about that. This is just the other document I was working on. Ignore that. Basically, I'm always doing this, and I'm ending up with a geometry. And that should be it. So let's zoom back in. Where is it? Okay. Piping. Oh, boy. Kind of got blown up there. There we go. Piping and rotating my geometries right here. Why is my geometry not working? Axis will be the z-axis, and I've got my angle, I've got my center. I have not grabbed, because it's a pipe, I always have to go in and I have to cap. I think I've already capped it under right-clicking here, and I put on round caps. So that's at least capped, so I can just grab a surface volume tool, and the volume will take that geometry, provide a centroid, and I have my center. And I think we're in business. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what I've done wrong here. I've got my steps right. I've got my pi factor right into my angle. I've got something going wrong with my centroid, and it may very well be that I've plugged in my geometries. And that was it. And so now what we have is a functioning rotation that's happening on these first ones in the z-axis. But what I said was I was going to make one for the y-axis. So let's go in and type in y unit, and let's plug that one in the axis. And this is going to be a different one. So now when you get everything set up and you know you have stuff and you have your inputs and outputs, you have to start thinking about this. I'm going to get rid of that one. Basically, I want to bring in a geometry, but since I flatten this geometry, I definitely want to have a geometry linked with that. This will be a number. A good practice is to go into your params and say, okay, I'm definitely going to want a number reading into that. That's a float. Okay, and then this one I'm definitely going to want, I think this is unnecessary, but I want a geometry, but I just like it because it's not been flattened yet. I want a geometry into that point. And this one, I want a geometry out of that point. And then you go into your params, and you got everything named right for your nodes, and now you get a y-axis rotation, which is a little crazy, going this way. Well, why not? You might want to flip things that way. I don't know why. 0 to 2 pi. You're going to go in, you're going to grab your cluster end, and you're going to plug your cluster end in there. It's going to get named the geometry, which is nice. I don't know if this is all necessary, but I like doing it. My input, I want a input geometry into there. And yeah, I think that's unnecessary. And I want an input geometry into my number system. And if I do that, I then have named everything right. I can send that number directly into there. I believe I could send that geometry directly into there, I believe. That should be fine because that should flatten it. And then I can send that one directly into, oh, I should have had it in there. I'm going to plug it into there. And that said, I think I can grab everything around my cluster. And I'm not sure if I grab everything inputs included. Right click, hit my middle wheel and hit cluster. And what I'm left with is geometry, geometry, and let's see what happens. If I bring in that geometry and I bring in my number slider, do I end up with an interesting piece of geometry? I hope I didn't screw anything up. And I did. So now I have a nice little cluster that all I have to do is rename that works in the y-axis. So what I'm going to do is go over here, right-click. Actually, you click on that and you hit File, Create User, Object. You're going to go into Cluster, and I just want to see my, before I do, I can't remember what I call it. Wickerson Studios, Name, Transformations, Nickname Cluster, Y rotation. That'll be good. And this will rotate a range of geometries in the y-axis. Category transform. I think we could actually go all the way down. Oh, what do I want? Pretty sure it's under transform. Subcategory Wickerson Studios. One click here. There might be a right click or a left click. You got to wait. Yeah, just it's a left click and you wait. That's going to drop some icons from online. Takes forever. And we had an anchor, and so now we want a cool little anchor with a, I don't know, something else anchor. Like I like blue anchors. I like things that are blue. There's another anchor that's looks about the same to me, but I know there's an anchor with a crescent moon here. I'm wasting time, and I apologize for it, but because I can't find it, what do I like as an icon? Sorry to be so particular. There's a crazy anchor in here somewhere that's kind of cool that I liked before. Oh well, maybe I'll just default over here and just do a color and make it a nice blue. And that should be the y-axis rotation. I should be able to go up to here and see, yeah, Wickerson Studios, I have this node. We get rid of this one now, and we can grab over here the Z rotation, geometries over to geometries with a rotation, and that will grab those. And I can grab my new Y cluster that takes those geometries into these, and we have another geometry. So let me grab that one, and I don't want to have it come up at the same time. So basically, I've got my Y rotation behaving in one cluster whenever I bring a piece of geometry in there, and boy, is it slow and jumpy. It's never efficient as a node that they do through the other file. And it might be that it's trying to rotate it also in the Z direction at the same time. So, making your own clusters probably is going to slow down some things that you're doing. But that's pretty cool. I've got 2 clusters that are made. They're in my my shelf items up here, and I'm ready to go. So that was 10 minutes. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm just going to leave these on here as a group. Make them a nice color blue, which is kind of a finale for me. And that's a little example for you. So hopefully clustering made easy, you enjoy it.